All right, guys, what's the breakdown? Something a little bit different this week. Go back the last 5 years, five state champions. You've got a Worth County, you got two Mound Cities, you got a Southwest Livingston, you got a Drexel. Gonna make you guys list your top five.
You want to go
In
first, Anthony, or myself, or me?
I'll let you go first.
All right, so mine, as I said there in the fastest minute, 8-man football. It's got a 2017 Worth County team. Whenever Mason Hawk was your worst offensive lineman, that's pretty good. Colton Wilmus only played defense that year, and the next year he was an all-state offense and defensive lineman, played college ball. Devin Jackson was really good for him as well. He only played defensive line. He ended up going to Northwest for a year. I know they had another kid up front. The Alarcon kid was their fullback, and he was 250-pound battering ram. So that team was really good. It was so good. Their backups the next year, who all kind of stepped in the next year, made it to the state championship game and lost to a really good Mound City team, who I have as the second best team in this era. So I got 17 Worth County, 18 Mound City with that backfield they had with Papa, the Mars kid, the George kid, TJ Hopkins. That team was very, very good and kind of upset Worth County in that state championship game a little bit with that, but that team was very good. And my third team was actually 2020 Southwest Livingston. I thought with Wes Hughes, that team was super explosive and had a good blend of really good linemen with Glenn Holt, Owen Aish, Jaden Sears and company, with the Wes Hughes and the Chase Neptune on the outside and the Ethan Hares. They had a nice little blend of that power and speed. That's very, when you do get that combination 8-man football, you can be special. That team was very special with it. Next, I have 2019 Mound City. That same Mound City team that came back the year after they won their first state championship. That group, without the Mars kid and a couple other guys who were gone, that team was still very good. And then last year's Drexel team just didn't have the multitude of weapons those other teams had in the top last five state champions. I know Coffee was really good. Compton was good too. But those other four state champion teams were just unbelievably great on there with that. So again, mine's 17 Worth County, 18 Mound City, 2020 Southwest, 2019 Mound City, and then 2021 Drexel.
Can you top that?
Interesting.
Oh, yes. Love this. Here we go.
Fight me.
I think you're mostly right. Now, like we talked about it earlier. I didn't get to watch that Worth County team, but
Slacker.
I think you're mostly right. But just for fun, I have the Drexel over the 2019 Mountain City team because why not? They have the best player I've ever seen play football, so I will, or at least an 8-man, I will give them that because I can't be giving Mountain City too much love tonight. I already feel gross.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. That 19 team was still good. They weren't as great as the 18 team was. They played a little better team in the state championship game than they did the Southwest the next year with Mac Anderson, who was still a really good player for them. I think if those two teams would have played, I think it would have been very similar to that state championship game, though, where Southwest had the one great player, Mac Anderson, with a couple of good pieces around him. Kind of the same thing with Coffee there at Drexel. Okay, I mean,
the best team that year was Pattonsburg.
That was the snowstorm year, wasn't it?
No, that was the year before. That was 18.
That was the year before.
19 was whenever Southwest and Pattonsburg played like the first to 75-1, and Southwest outlasted them. Will Hyde threw a pick late in that game.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that one.
Well, I just knew the offense they ran with Mac Anderson. They didn't spread the ball out enough for them to have much of a chance in that one. I think now Pattonsburg wasn't going to stop Mountain City. But I don't think Mountain City was going to stop Pattonsburg either. So it was disappointing.
Somehow Southwest Livingston lost Mac Anderson and got better the next year with Wes Hughes because they were able to use more of the secondary skills around them better, which made them even better. And I think Magruder did a really good job that second year with Wes Hughes, just letting them just kind of feast on teams with that. They were so good with that. And Hughes was slippery as a runner too. He wasn't like the most athletically gifted guy, I don't think, but he was just so good with ankles and he was so smart. So
now 2018, if there's not a snowstorm,
Pattonsburg Mountain City in the great weather is fantastic because the one problem with that 19 Pattonsburg team is their best player got hurt in the Jamboree with Cameron Jones. If that kid's healthy the whole year, 2019 Pattonsburg versus 2019 Mountain City would have been a fantastic football game because they would have had a little bit more defense. Because he was a really good defensive player too, along with the receiver. But there's no great defensively, but they're going to be better more competent defensively than another great athlete who was a 43-foot jumper in the triple jump. I mean, he was a great athlete for him.
You talk about weather changing an entire ball game. I remember that because I don't remember who I sent up there, but I was like, I think Pattonsburg's a favorite going into this Worth County matchup.
Because they had beat them early in the year.
Yeah.
Like, they had crushed them 62-42, and that game wasn't that close. Like, they crushed them.
And halfway through, I was like, hey, how's it going? They're like, it's like blah, blah, blah to nothing. And I was like, is it Pattonsburg? And no, it's Worth County. I went,
It was a
snow
blizzard.
was wreaking
That's why.
havoc.
They should have played the Friday before. It was nice weather on that Friday night. They said, we'll wait till Saturday to play. It was the wrong decision.
That's Missouri weather right there. Like, that is Missouri weather but you talk about because you don't see that in 8-man football that often, that a snowstorm disrupts an entire 8-man football team's plan just because it's historically we'll run the football, so what? But yeah, throwing the football, and because wasn't the wind pretty bad that day too? I don't remember.
The wind was howling. Yeah. We were Worth County. They were in Pattonsburg. There's no wind blocks over there. It was just a howling wind, sideways, terrible.
No, that was in Worth County.
Yeah, that was
it?
Worth County. Yeah, it was up in Worth County.
Yeah.
That's right. It was out of district. I was thinking Pattonsburg beat them early in the year, so they would host them. But with the different MSHA seating stuff, that's right. Worth County hosted them. Yeah, also no wind blocks in Worth County. It didn't really make a difference. There's
that's
no
not
wind.
a fun drive after it snowed. Like those.
What, you mean the rural roads?
Plowed, yeah.
I mean, I was in Org that weekend, so I was doing Mountain City Org for the Ville that weekend. That game was not close, so Mountain City definitely took it to them. So,
before we change topics on this, do you feel like, I don't know, we covered Southwest quite a bit in the run too, but I feel like those 2 years don't get a lot of attention in the grand scheme of things. Not from you guys necessarily, but just when we talk about the last 5-10 years of 8-man football, that Southwest run with those two teams they had where historically they hadn't been a great program with a lot of numbers. They just didn't have the guys going out, but those 2 years were some of the better ones we've seen the last 5-10 years too.
Yeah, and Southwest had a run where they were always a decent team, but never great. Like, they were always a team that was going to win 7-8 games in the 275, or the Platte Valley before that, maybe a little weaker. Like, you had, like, when in the Platte Valley, they had North Andrew to beat or to lose to kind of deal. North Andrew usually beat them. And then after that, Les Angeles Christian was really good. They would roll through the rest of their schedule, and then they run into a really good team in the playoffs and lose in the quarterfinals, the semifinals, or something like that. And they finally got to the team where they were able to get over the top and make it to a state championship game and win one with this really special group that after losing that state championship game, they always told me about how much they came back in the offseason, didn't want to feel that way again. They wanted to come back the next year and win it all, and knew what they needed to do more for that kind of deal. So that was a special group of kids there at Southwest in 2020 that I didn't see that going into the year, and they make sure to remind me every time they see me that I didn't see it. Because I didn't have them in my top 10 to start the year, even though they'd went to the state championship game the year before, losing Mac Anderson.
I did.
Yeah, you did. But also, Magruder didn't tell me they had a stud from Illinois move back into town, so I feel slighted about that a little bit. So, and I mean, the first 2 weeks they came out, played 2 top 10 teams in East Atchison and South Maui Holt, took it to both of them, and I ate my words and put them in the top 2 the rest of the year. Like, nope, not doing this again. So, and again,
what was crazy about that time period, and not that it was like forever ago, but just the top end talent. And it's not just Southwest, but Worth County, Pattonsburg, Mountain City, like it's made the sport better because there's not that elite team.
Yep.
But boy, when those teams got together, that was fun as well.
Yeah, well, 2020 was a great year for the poll as well. Our top 8 teams all made the state quarterfinals, and they were the best 8 teams in the state that year. You had Archie versus Drexel. You had Stanberry, East Atchison, South Holt, Maui Holt versus North Andrew, and then Southwest Livingston versus North Shelby. Those were the best 8 teams in the state that year, and they all met up in the quarterfinals. And then the top 4 teams, you had Drexel versus Southwest, Mountain City, and then North Andrew versus Stanberry. Those are the best 4 teams. I mean, we thought there as well, kind of deal. So we did a really good. Not only we did a good job, but actually the talent was spread out a little bit more, where there was 2 really good teams in each district, kind of deal there. And I know we thought really highly of Albany going to that one, and COVID kind of knocked them out. So maybe there was some discrepancy there, but for the most part, the top 8 teams made the quarterfinals, made the semifinals, and then the championship game was the best 2 teams that we had thought most of the year there. I know another aspect there is Mountain City getting hurt, losing Landon Papa, losing Tony Osborne. That team was also very good. I mean, they had beaten Southwest Livingston week 4, as I said earlier. Yeah. So, but by the end of the year, the top 8 teams were playing late in the year. We might not get to see that this year since some of the talent is being condensed into one or two
Oh, you mean
regions kind of
District
deal with
4?
that. Yeah, District 4.
Okay,
God, I hate
throw
that
that
district.
out
It's
there.
brutal. East Ashton's the 5 seed right now in that district.
Yeah, let's jump into that now.
Okay.
Since we'll wrap up. I'm not good with time. Clearly, we record this late at night. All right, so North Andrew 1, Platte Valley 2, Archie 3, Albany 4, Worth County 5, 6 Drexel, 7 East Atchison, 8 King City, 9 Orrick, 10 North Shelby. I guess, Anthony, you're at the game Friday. Albany's, like we've talked about the last few weeks.
Yeah, they're deep. I went there expecting Kemper Klein to blow me away. And while he was great, their defense is fantastic. That's really what I took from that. Because they're not the biggest group, but they shut down. Tyler New had a good game running the ball, but that was more when they spread them out, and he just kind of ran it up the middle. But once Worth County kind of condensed everything down, they just couldn't move the ball, which is surprising because they're not Worth County of old, but they're still Worth County. They still love to run the ball up the middle. And Castlebaugh had a couple of big runs, but other than that, he was pretty much shut down. And so that's what really blew me away was their ability to play defense. And Kemper was great when he needed to be. I do wonder how this game Friday is going to go, because Albany loves running the ball up the middle, and Platte Valley is still much bigger than them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think, as we've talked about, Coach Fountain is fantastic, and he will find ways to get his team to the best position possible. So I'll be interested to see how they handle that, because they didn't run the ball very well against Worth County. It was actually the passing game that kind of got them to where they were able to win. So I'll be interested to see how that works. Same with Platte Valley. They are bigger, but I love that front 5 of Albany, and I think that Platte Valley is also going to have to find ways to move the ball outside of Carter Luke. Because as we saw, Castlebaugh was fantastic coming into that game, and then they shut him down. So that's when we were real interested in. I thought even Friday was a bit of a low-scoring game for 8-man. I think this one could be even lower.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I know we had talked the past couple of years there when I talked about Albany, and I'd mentioned 75 at middle linebacker and how weird that looked and on the film kind of deal. And you guys see it live in person. Like, why is this big D tackle making tackles everywhere? And 75 is their middle linebacker in Truman Reynolds, which I love that, by the way. Love seeing the kind of weird numbers and weird positions like Linville wearing 38 at quarterback for North Andrew. That's fantastic. It's just different. I know Chris doesn't like it.
Quarterbacks have to stay low. I'm sorry.
So
it's
it's interesting. It's interesting
don't
for me.
Confuse me. If I don't have a roster in my hand.
See, I have a roster in my hand. I come prepared to games,
It's
Chris.
37. Don't be giving him Matthew Evans'
Okay,
number.
sorry, 37. My mistake. Well, before that, Thomas wore 38 at quarterback. So they've had back-to-back quarterbacks at 38 and 37. So with that, I mean, all their fullbacks just playing 8 positions. It doesn't really matter where you put them. Kind of deal with that for North Andrew. But Truman Reynolds, he's a really good player for him. And everyone knows Coach Fountain has that team always kind of reared and ready to go with their assignment football. So if you play assignment football and 8-man football, you're going to be able to hold teams down just a little bit more than usual. I mean, Worth County came into that game averaging over 70 points per game, and they only put up 34 points. I mean, they were very impressive with that. Albany's defense only giving up 18 points per game. Platte Valley's only giving up 12. I think Albany's played a little bit tougher schedule with that, especially with the Worth County game in there. And Albany has a chance here if they can beat Platte Valley as well to definitely knock on that door and get some love at that one spot as well. I know I had to put them in heavy consideration with that as well with North Andrew and Archie in that top 3 if they win this game kind of deal. It's just tough to win 2 games like this back to back, and they still have to play North Andrew and King City. I mean, Albany has a chance to really control their own destiny there, or even if they slip up once, like, you know what? Yeah, they still have a better resume than 90% of the state kind of deal with this. So I'm intrigued by that. And for Platte Valley, this is one of their 2 big games of the year. You got this one and the East Ashton game in week 9 for conference, most likely they're in the 275s. This is a real good opportunity for Platte Valley to kind of flex their muscles as well. I love the Weir kid. I got to see them live in person. That kid is one of the better 2 defensive ends I've seen in the state, along with Chittum from North Andrew. He's 1A, 1B, whichever one you want to order. You want to put those 2 in. He's really good as well. And the kid's fast for being as big as he is. Chittum's a little more power. Weir's just explosively fast for as big as he is. And the Carter Luke kid, as good as he is on offense, he might be even better on defense, the way he was flying around making tackles. So I'm intrigued to see what they do versus Kemper. And if they decide, like, hey, anybody else has to beat us but Kemper Klein, and same way with Albany with Carter Luke, I think Albany's maybe a little better equipped, as Anthony said earlier, to have a second pitch or a third pitch to overcome the defensive scheme that I think both these coaches are really good at with Silkett and Fountain.
And mind you, Albany was without their starting running back.
Darren Felt, yeah. He's a good player too.
All right, real quick, we'll run through the other games. I think the other ones of note are probably going to be Worth County versus King City, Archie versus LeBlanc. But I want to end it on this. We kind of talked about the districts and how they're laid out, and it is what it is. District 4 has Albany, North Andrew, Platte Valley, East Atchison, and Worth County. So you got number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5, number 7.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oof.
We ready just to go to a top 32 team thing and just
I mean, I would prefer that instead of having Worth County as your 5 seed, not getting a home game in the first round of the playoffs.
now I also understand you don't do it in other sports. If you have a stacked district, you don't change things up either. But this
Football's
one,
different.
you can kind of maneuver a little bit here for 8-man football if you want to.
And I tell people all the time, football is just different than basketball or baseball or anything like that. It's just a different sport. I mean, it's the most popular sport, first of all, and just things just are done differently for football. For basketball, they have coaches meet up and do district seedings. For football, they use a formula to rank the teams with record and points like that. I mean, it's just different, and you already have that formula in place if you wanted to do the top 32 teams make it, and then if the first round, if you want to eliminate travel, North versus South, whatever, that first round, and then you can do the final 16 teams as a true state bracket. After that, it's possible. It's been done in other states and it's been very effective in other states. It would require a little more work, which is why it won't happen, because the easy way is just put them, hey, geographically, this is what we're going to do. I'll be damned if Stanberry, Albany, Worth County, King City are all within 20 miles of each other and stacked kind of deal. Like, it is what it is. I mean, I don't like it. We saw it even back with Mount City's run in 2018. They were 2019. They were the 3 seed that year in districts with East Atchison and North Andrew. Were able to beat them both and then beat Southwest Livingston for the championship game. Southwest Livingston, Mount City was the 3rd best team in their conference that year, and they won state as the 3 seed in their district because their district was loaded. Kind of deal with that. Their state championship game might have been versus EA in the district championship game, and I just don't like seeing those best games being so early in the tournament. I'd rather have the better games be on the biggest stages in the state semifinals and the state championship game, and not just best we can do. I know there's no perfect system for that because there's going to be some upsets.
Right.
There might be an injury with that, but there's a way for us to do it better than just, well, you know what? We know that North Andrew, Platte Valley, Albany, Stanberry, Worth County, East Atchison are all close to each other, but it's okay. They can all just play each other and battle it out with that. Yeah. It's unfortunate for some of those kids as well, because it's like, hey, we won districts this year, or hey, we made district championship game. And it's like, yeah, but you would have got smoked by the 5th seed over in that district kind of deal. So it's kind of weird with that kind of deal.
Wow, Devin.
Well, the 5 seed is Worth County, so I can say that with pretty good confidence.
Anthony, your final thought before we get out of here?
It's stupid.
I love how short and sweet that is.
Anthony, one thing before we leave, why do you hate Drexel in the poll?
No.
Just asking. We don't hate
To be
Drexel.
fair, I've been a hater since day one. So,
I mean, and honestly, I tally all the votes up for the poll. I have Drexel, I think, lower than anybody else at this point. So,
yeah, you were a bit of a dick about it. So,
I was a little bit, but hey, I moved up a spot this past week. I wanted to see them without coffee for a week, what they would kind of do. The first half was a struggle versus Jasper, who is still a solid team. They're not anything special, but they got a couple of good backs there. So it's at least a decent. They're not playing like they got Rich Hill this week. It's a better competition than that kind of deal with that. And they got things figured out in the second half there versus Jasper, and were able to take control of that football game. They got Rich Hill this week, and they got Archie in week 6. That's going to be their kind of litmus test to see if they're still where we think they were beforehand, or if they run into Archie and they still got, I think, St. Paul later in the year as well. So they have a couple of games in their schedule to kind of prove where they kind of belong in that top 10, top 5. They still should be 1, whatever you want, the poll kind of deal with that.
I want some chaos. I want them to beat Archie.
You want them to beat Archie?
I want absolute chaos in your guys' 8-man media poll, because the more chaos there is, the more I get to sit back and like, ooh, what'd they mess up this week?
Nothing. We're perfect. I'm
You
kidding.
were when I was in the pool. Especially on
I think the only difference between what came out and mine was number 10.
Yeah, you got what, Lockwood there at 10 instead of North Shelby. I'm high in North Shelby, so love my guys out there in the Northeast.
You talk
Someone's
about
got
a
to.
team that's out in the middle of nowhere for district-wise. They're
North Shelby?
traveling regardless of what district
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
in.
No.
Well,
Hey.
North Shelby, Knox, Schuyler, those three teams have to travel no matter where they go.
Yeah.
So I think Anthony, you're going to Worth County, Albany. No, don't try.
Are you
Platte
stealing
Valley.
Are you
I am
stealing
stealing
what
your
I
stuff.
say?
Yes, I am going to steal your stuff.
Go ahead. Finish it out and we'll get out of here.
If I get it right there. So Platte Valley, Albany, and then you're doing Rockport, East Atchison on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm doing a triple header. I'm doing Oric,
What's
Hughesville.
up, Tarkio?
I'm glad I gave the Tarkio for you. So I'm doing Oric, Hughesville on Thursday, and then I'm going to do Archie LeBlanc on Friday. And then Saturday afternoon, I am driving over to Keatsville to watch Keatsville versus Greenfield to see how that goes. Two teams that desperately kind of need a win to get some confidence in that program. So it might be a low-key good game, kind of like Anthony's Stewartsville DeKalb game in the playoffs last year. I want to see a low-key, really good game there. So two teams that are pretty evenly matched.